weekly look at all of the hot topics in HR.
Whether it's passive talent or it's active talent.
That's a soft skill that really gets undersold in the hiring process.
How to manage in the virtual environment.
You get a diverse, cultured group of people. It's a win-win for everybody.
More conversion from candidate leads.
What does that look like in this new virtual world?
Jen, we're live again. We're live again with Talent Experience Live. Thanks everyone for joining us. We really appreciate your attendance, your participation in the chat. We are here every Thursday at noon. Thank you. Welcome. If you're a first timer, Talent Experience Live is brought to you by Phenom. Phenom has a purpose of helping 1 billion people find the right job. It is the only reason this company, Phenom, exists. And what that does is we help candidates find the right job faster. We help employees upskill and evolve. We help recruiters be more productive and efficient with their time. And we help managers build better teams. Jen, what else?
Thanks, JD. So please share this out to your networks. We stream live, like JD said, every Thursday at noon on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. You can catch our blog recaps there as well. And excited to jump into today's topic.
Smash the like button. If you're the first time listener, viewer to us, please smash the like button, subscribe to all of our channels. We are always coming out with some amazing content. It is consistent. It's valuable to you, whether you are a candidate, whether you're a recruiter, a manager, HR professional, whether you're in tech, it doesn't matter. Our program covers a variety of topics, and we think you'll find it very valuable. And today's topic sounds like...
Let me jump in. So last week, we brought you our most controversial topic, which was the big quit, why we need it and why it's so great. This week, we are bringing you perhaps our most controversial title of an episode, which is crap-free career pathing. What's next when you're not sure? So JD, explain yourself. Can you talk about how we landed on this particular title and why it's actually an accurate reflection of how candidates, employees, and management probably feel a lot of the time?
Well, I think a lot of, I think regardless, if you're in the working world, you've been probably told all of your life that you need to, take ownership of your career. You need to look at your career path and really it keeps getting back to that ownership piece, but it's a hard topic. And we want to spend today talking and removing the BS, if you will. So we took some creative liberties on the topic of crap-free career pathing. We want to not make this a beep show. And we want to actually give some real world examples of how when you're looking at your career path, it's really your story, your experience that helps you understand better how to get to the next step, because a lot of people don't know how to get to the actual next step. And so I think in today's episode, we're going to be covering how to get to the next step, how to look for mentors, how to understand how the internal gig economy or external gig economy relates to you. We're going to look at, you have a career champion in your life. We're going to look at upskilling, learning, and development. All of these topics we're going to explore in real ways to try to make your career path or your help in getting someone else's career path and making that not a mess, if you will. Yeah,
absolutely. So based on everything you just said, do you have any eye-opening career path moments that you want to kick off this episode with?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. So I'd never thought of a career path. Honest to God, I've never thought of a career path. And I was probably 5 years out of school. Now you think 5 years out of university or school, you'd think your career path you would have by then. But Jen, I will tell you, I was very successful in my youth as a leader, first of all, answering phones on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday night shift for a high-tech company, answering support calls. Hi, my name is Jonathan. I work for X company. How can I help you? What's your problem? And solving that, I then worked my way up from answering those calls to managing the level 1 technical support team, managing the level 2 technical support team, and being what I considered to be the director of customer support for this company. And I felt good at it. I felt this was good. I am good at doing this job. And I was showing up every day and I was making a difference and I was making impact. And then there was a director brought in over top of me and over top to own all of customer support. And I went into my COO's office at the time. Chris, if you're listening, I don't know to thank you or not thank you at this point in my life. But I went in.
Thank you.
I'd say thank you. That's fair. So I went into his office and said, I think I was passed up for this position. I should have been considered. Why wasn't I considered? And I didn't go in aggressively. I went in confused, but I was proud of myself at the time. And he looked at me and he said, is that what you want to do for the rest of your life? Do you want to work in support? I said, I don't think so. And he said, then why are you even in my office? And that was a huge turning point in my entire career and my entire career path.
I would think so. Yeah. And I think we're going to explore more about where that story evolved. But I think we should also bring on somebody who's also going through their own career pathing journey, somebody who works at Phenom, and we're going to get their story, what their role currently is and where they want to go and how they're progressing through, how they had the tough conversations that need to be had. Because when you're asked, what is your career path? I know I myself, when I'm asked that, I think, I don't know. I don't know where to start. It can be an awkward question. So the whole purpose of this episode is to try to clarify how you have those tough conversations, how you map out where you want to go, so that it's a good fit for you, for your company, and everybody involved.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about crap-free career pathing, and we're going to get right to it. And we're going to bring in a guest to speak with Jen and I, and we're going to actually look at one person's career path that happens to work for the marketing team at Phenom. As you know, if you caught the last episode of The Big Quit, we had some very candid conversations. So this should be interesting. Justin, if you could bring John on. John, welcome to Talent Experience Live.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. John, just for the viewers, can you please state your name, your title, where you live? I'm joking. Can you give the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is John Ryle. I'm a senior graphic designer here at Phenom. I've been here for, I think, coming up on 2.5 years, and it's somewhere that I love being, and somewhere where I'm exploring kind of like developing my roots in. So it's a great place to be at.
How did you get to Phenom?
It's funny. I originally, I think a recruiter just reached out, and I thought it was like a talent agency trying to place me somewhere, and I wasn't sure what Phenom was. Never heard of it. Had a great conversation with her, and then my next conversation was with JD, and that kind of went well, and started to understand what the company was about and what was needed and the value that I could add, and had a couple more meetings and jumped on board.
So I think personally, the conversation we're about to have, and Jen included, I think will touch a lot of, it will connect with a lot of folks viewing this, whether you're viewing live now or whether you're viewing a, on-demand recording of this or video clip. I think it'll touch them, because I think everyone at their point in career really understands and reflects on where are they going? Where did they come from? Cotton Eye Joe song, right? Where'd you come from? Where did you go? Like, where are you going? And we're going to spend the next just a few minutes exploring that with you. And hopefully it's not uncomfortable. For the record, John works directly for me. So in Phenom, we are encouraged by our HR team to have very candid conversations and practice radical candor, be very open about career paths, open about salary discussions. We're not talking about salary here, but have these conversations. And it's folks like John that make our team amazing. So we're going to have this conversation now. And John thanked me earlier for giving him all the questions I'm about to ask, which all kidding aside, we didn't give him any questions to prepare for. So this is all right from the cuff. You ready, John?
I'm ready. Fire away.
All right. John, do you feel today in your given role you're valued and appreciated?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome.
I feel like it's there's constantly kind of like a back and forth, and I feel like there is that value. Like I feel like that I'm adding to the projects that we're working on, and the progress the company is making as a whole, and I feel like it's reciprocated.
From your career path on where you came from, did you feel like taking the position at Phenom a few years ago, as you mentioned a couple of years ago, do you feel like that was at the time the right step for your career? And why? And why was it the right step for your career?
Yeah, I felt like it was an awesome opportunity for me. So coming kind of like in the creative field, a lot of times, well, for most of the time, you're sort of support staff, right? Like I develop graphics, or I, build email assets, or blog assets, and website graphics and things like that. And so a lot of times you're sort of a cog in the machine, and joining Phenom or joining this type of company allowed me to sort of blur those lines, and the sort of title of senior graphic designer was a little bit more ambiguous, where it wasn't like I'm just a cog in the machine, I'm just creating these graphics and helping other people and their projects sort of get through the finish line. But I was able to kind of contribute and let my sort of title kind of morph a little bit more into adding more value than just that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Now, you've been here 2 years. When you joined, you felt like it was the right move for your career path, and you just explained why. Do you still feel it's the right place for you?
I do. Yeah, mainly because of the value that I feel like I'm able to bring to the table, and also understanding, even though that there is ambiguity about what that sort of career path looks like for me moving forward, I feel like there's value being placed in the development of me, not specifically for just being a graphic designer, but exploring what sort of what placement or what avenue or what path looks like correct for me and for the company within Phenom itself. Like, and what are the right steps for me to take, whether it's inside the creative team or outside of that, or exploring what that looks like based on the value that I bring to the table.
Thanks. Now, you and I have some very candid conversations. Again, I mentioned our HR team encourages us to have these, and you and I are no different. I think we have them often. What are some of the challenges you feel after being here a couple of years that you're concerned about or you're worried about for you? Again, this episode's about your career path, not someone else's, but for you.
Yeah, I think, specifically for me, like I mentioned within the creative field, it's your role can be very defined on what you're doing and deliverables that you have and the expectations that are set before you. With Phenom, it's a little bit different, and there's like, we're not big on titles, and so like my role kind of expanded outside of specifically just design work, whether it be like project management or things like that. And so when I look at my career path, the thing that concerns me is there a place for me to go sort of beyond, right? Like for a senior graphic designer, technically like the next role for me might be art director or creative director, but there really isn't anything like that here at Phenom. So it's like, how does my career sort of develop here? Because I want to stay. This is where I want to be. And what does it look like for me to kind of carve that out? I don't know. Like, I don't know the answers to that. So it's like, do I have to start to kind of think about what it looks like for me to take steps somewhere else, and how do I build my resume, and how do I make it look appropriate to make those moves if that's needed, or how do I carve that role out that I think is needed here? And I don't know the answer to that, to be honest.
Do you think for the next 40 years of your career you will stay here at Phenom?
40 years of my career.
Nothing like being put on the spot.
I mean, no, to be honest. Yeah. Like, I can't imagine. I don't know. Like, I would like to, but I don't know. It's how can I say it? I'd say 5-10 years, yeah, for sure. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a hot take on that question. I wanted to catch you off guard, and I absolutely knew would. And I don't expect you here 40 years, but you never know.
Right. You
never know. Do you feel from your direct manager, which is me, I should have had Jen ask this question, but from me, do you feel like your manager can help you get to the next step? And let's start with just a yes or no. Do you feel they can help you get to the next step?
Yeah.
Where do you feel they can't, though? You answered yes, but I know more in this situation than our viewers.
Yeah.
Where do you feel your manager helps you today, but where do you feel your manager falls short in helping you?
So where my manager being you, where you help me is leadership, taking risks, communication, project management, seeing the big picture, pushing myself, into owning other things or kind of contributing in other ways than just sort of my role. I think where you need help or where I need help is like specifically for my discipline, right? Like in the creative field and knowing the next steps to take as far as what it looks like for me technically developing and growing and on that aspect is where I think it falls short.
Yeah, as your manager, I agree with what you're saying. There are a lot of pieces I feel like I feel there's some pieces there's no one better in this world to help you than me. But then on some of these other pieces, I don't know how to help, right? And I'm not a graphics person. I'm not a creative person. So I know I fall short if my job was to help you get to the next step in a specific skill set or discipline. I can't help. I can make sure you get projects assigned to you to get exposure, but I can't actually help with a lot of those things. And I appreciate it. And I thank you for being patient with myself as a leader, but open enough to have this conversation. And I think we can only have it because we're so open about where I can help and where I can't help certain people on our team. Do you have any parting shots or advice? Any parting shots could be dangerous. Do you have any advice for individuals that are in a very similar situation as you and what keeps you up at night? What would you tell them?
I think to try to find avenues of transparency, right? Like to get conversations with, whether they're uncomfortable or not, like to get conversations about the reality of what the growth looks like and what you think it looks like. And even, for myself, like I've had to ask myself like challenging questions, like what is it that I want to do? And what does it look like that I want to do? And trying to find avenues for myself to grow, whether it be like, connecting with people on LinkedIn or, finding people in my specific field that can help me mentor me like along the next steps in my career. Like those have been really, really helpful. Awesome.
Hey, John, we appreciate you always, but we also appreciate you coming on the program and talking honestly, because I think whether someone is HR profession, which is a lot of our audience that listens to this show, you're an HR profession, or whether you're a leader, manager, individual contributor, or person just like John, we can all relate to your story about there is always some uncertainty in your career path and in your future. And there are things that you can personally own and try. And there are things that you need to have that open relationship and transparency with a leader to try. So thank you for coming on and being so open with us. Much appreciated.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right, Jen. So we heard from John. It was not uncomfortable for me because John and I have so many conversations, but I can understand a lot of people listening or catching this, how it could be very uncomfortable to talk about these topics or to broach these topics.
Sure. So how do you think that somebody who wants to progress in their career, who may really love what they're doing, but they want to see the big picture, how do they start that conversation with their manager?
Well, I think it comes from a culture. What's the culture of the team? What's the culture of the company? What's the culture of the manager you work for? And hopefully you find yourself in an environment where that culture has already been open or established. I think that's easier. Mm-hmm. If it's not, I think you just need to see, do I not love the culture, or do you connect with the culture, but you still have to have this conversation? Because it's not easy for everyone to have this conversation. So my guess is it's a very individual thing, but if you're unsure of something about what the career path is or how to get there, you need to talk. You need to talk to people. You have to take some ownership yourself, and then you have to put some ownership on the people that you are working for, whether that's HR teams, the company, or your manager. That's how you feel about that. But let me ask yourself, Jen, as we continue to go over the topic, mm-hmm. Do you have, like recently you managed our intern project here. That's young youth, right? Coming out of universities and colleges, mm-hmm. and getting exposure, some for the first time, some for this is their second or third internship, into the real world. What advice do you have related to career pathing for them? What are some of the keys or tips you have?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the first things that we did at Phenom was make sure that our interns had conversations with every single person on the marketing team. Marketing is not just one thing. We've got content, we've got product marketing, we've got demand gen, and we wanted to make sure that our interns understood each of those aspects. We also have customer marketing. I could go on and on. So I think that it was very important that we made it basically a requirement for them to reach out to every single member of the team and have like a 20-minute conversation with those people to explore their own career path, how they got to where they were, what they're doing currently at Phenom, what they like, what they might want to improve on, and where they see themselves going. And I think that that's critical. Getting other people's stories and understanding them is such a big piece of then figuring out your own story and hearing how we all work together. We're all working toward the same goal in marketing, but we all contribute in a different way. And I think that was critical. So I would advise anyone just starting out, even if your company does not require that to have, a 20-minute conversation with all the members of your team, to reach out. It's super easy today, obviously, to do that, to have, a Zoom call and to connect with them. I also recommend reaching outside of your own team. We're often dealing with lots of other departments, from, sales to customer support. So I think that's important too. And the more that you're exposed to, the more you're going to learn. So that would be my first tip and piece of advice. I also think that it's super important to immerse yourself in what's going on at the company and to take part in what's going on. So I'd say like the hands-on experience, there's just no substitute for it. Hearing other people's stories is great, but getting exposure to different projects is also key, especially when you're trying to figure out, well, what am I really passionate about? What am I really good at? What do people really see that I'm bringing value to? That ranges from engaging in internships to part-time work to freelance work. So really getting that hands-on experience. A lot of companies are offering part-time gigs. So, even if you're part of an established organization, you can branch out. If you have an interest, you may be in a totally different department, but you have a passion for writing, you can take on some of these projects and see how that progresses. So I think that's also a really good tip for people just starting out.
Awesome. John had talked about a few things. He had talked about where I could help him out as a leader and manager, and where he felt like I couldn't help him out. And I think that's something I want to talk about right now. And I want to give really a shout out to both the HR team, whose jobs are harder than ever right now, of having to both attract, get talent, but also retain talent. This message really, though, goes out to the managers. If you find yourself, any manager listening right now, if you find yourself in a situation where you have members of your team where you can't help anymore, where you can't try to figure out how to get them the next step, how to progress their career path, you need to do something. This is on you. Each and every manager out there, if you can't help someone in their career path, that's your problem. John is my problem. Yes, he owns some of this, but it's my problem. So in this case, actually, we're trying to hire someone above John, above our creative team right now, to be essentially a creative director, because that is the right person that we've identified that can help all of our creative team as of now, as individuals, in their next career step. It also scales our team. But I can't stress enough, if you find yourself inability to help someone's career, it's your problem because you're stalling their career. It is not fair to them as individuals. I have these conversations with folks on my team. I encourage you to do the same. And if you have to take action, if you have to get someone and put them above them, tell them why. Tell them exactly why. John has aspirations to grow in his career. It's my job as his manager and as his leader to help him get there. And he deserves it. And so many others on our Phenom creative team deserve that as well. So that's my message to any manager listening in right now.
I think another important topic to address is mentorship. I think that's critical in helping people move from one stage in their career to another. So, they're definitely critical in that, but how do you think that people can connect with the right person? Not everybody is going to be the right mentor for somebody else. They might not be ready to take that on. They may have a lot of other personal distractions. They may not be in the same career path as you. So what is your advice there for people who are looking to connect to a mentor who can help them develop their career, now and maybe see them through that whole journey?
I think there's a misconception around mentors that it's all about a single person in their life. I actually think single I don't call them mentors. I think champions. When I think of one person that's so critical and important in someone's career, I think of a champion. But I think of mentors on a different level. I think of mentors as you should have lots of different mentors. And mentors will come and go based upon your career path or what you need as a person. You will mentor different people as you grow as well. So my quick take on mentors is you need mentors. Mentors help you verbalize your feelings, your challenges. They help shape you. They help shape the direction you need to go in. But I don't think mentors are a one and done thing. I think you have many mentors and they come and go as you need them and as they connect with you and you build these organic relationships. And same to you. Every single person listening right now can be a mentor to someone else, and they should. But don't think of that mentorship as having to be lifelong. Help someone if you can help them always. And it might only be one sentence. It might be a phrase you give them. It might be a word of encouragement as a mentor, or it might be really helping shape someone's career path.
I think that goes along with a career path in general. So I think it's very hard to say, okay, I want to be this. Very few people just know automatically what they want to be. What do you want to be when you grow up?
What was your career path then? So
for me, I actually started out in advertising, in online media when online media was a new thing. So I didn't know much about it. I worked at an ad agency, a great ad agency. But I don't think that I was really in the right department for what I was doing, planning campaigns. I really wanted to be on the creative side of things, working on the copy, working with the designers on and how we were communicating an overall message, for some big brands. And I ended up leaving for numerous reasons. And then I found my way into publishing, where I really felt like I had a good experience learning to increase my writing skills, my editing skills, and that really resonated with me. So I started in advertising, moved to publishing, and then took really basically 10 years off. I was freelancing on the side, of course, but needed to get back into the workforce. And I'll never forget it. I literally Googled, best places to work within my zip code, because I wanted to not have a long commute with my children. And I found Phenom, and I found a marketing role, and I didn't know much about marketing. I knew I could write. I knew I could edit. I knew I had insights about strategy regarding content, but I didn't know how that would all translate into marketing. And over the past 2+ years, I have seen how that can all translate into marketing and make an impact.
Yeah, even Laura Solano has a comment here. And she says, her comment is, if Justin will get it flashed up on the screen. Here it is. Laura Solano's comment is, my career path is now so different from what I envisioned 5-10 years ago. I feel it morphed into a new goal based on job experiences, exposure, and variety of roles. That's exactly it. Part of this session, we talked about crap-free career pathing, but it was really, how do you take the next step when you don't know what the next step is? I like to say that your next step in your career path, not your next step, but your career path is your story. Jen, your story is starting out in the publishing world, taking a break for family and moving into still a set that's important, which is writing, your core function, but now you're expanding into a more marketing type career, right? That's how your goes. And you are extremely valuable because of that. John Ryle has a different career path, but his story is what tells, like, a story is what gets you your next role. It's not quite all those 30 years of experience that you list on your resume. It's your story you tell about those years. So whether you're in the market and you're 1 year, or whether you're 2 years or 3 years or 20 years or 30 years, your story is in fact what you're proud of. That is your experience. That is your career path. So anymore, I like to say your story of your experience is your career path. And you can take that in any direction you want. My career path was answering phones on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday shift. No one else in the office. That's how my story started. And it's currently here at Phenom running marketing, which I'm very proud of. And it was all in between. Jen's is different. You're listening. If you're a recruiter, whether you're a CHRO, someone in the talent management field of HR, whether you're someone in tech right now, you're a data scientist listening here, your story is what gets you your next role, not necessarily the 30 years, 20 years, 10 years you show on your resume. It's the story that tells. And I think that's so important. So we have a few other topics we need to touch on today. We need to bring in another guest, not just yet, Justin, but we need to bring on another guest, Jesus. Jesus is going to actually show us how AI technology today in your life, especially if you're in HR, how AI technology is encouraging the conversations that Jen and I have been talking about. We talked about having candid conversations, understanding the next steps. AI technology today is showing what career paths could look like for you. It's showing you what skills in learning development you could easily obtain. It's understanding who could be a mentor to you, and then the ability for you to approach that mentorship. It's helping you understand what gigs can you take internal to your company today to get you more skills. So I can't help John Ryle with skills, but he can certainly help himself by going into gigs and taking on additional projects. And he talked about that. So we're going to bring Jesus on. He's going to actually show us this technology. Jen, let's just go with one other question. From your career path and where you see it going, do you see any limitation in your career path? Or do you know maybe what the next step is just yet?
I'm not sure. One of the things that really resonated with me that you were saying was the fact that everybody brings their own unique perspective. I actually love that I have a journalism background and that I can bring that to marketing, because I think that it enriches our content, which excites me. I like hearing two different sides of the coin of how we could present a piece of information versus my concerns about, being more journalistic and how we do that. So I think that's just a takeaway that I think, when you mentioned your story is really part of your career path and what you can bring, it's also something that differentiates you and you can bring something unique that maybe other people who had a different career path, maybe if I was always in marketing, I would not be able to bring. So that really resonated with me.
What I find about your comment, and we're going to bring Jesus on now, but what I find about your comment that's amazing is you're considered a top player in our Phenom marketing team, and you're saying you're not sure. Like, you're saying you're not sure, but we don't look at this as a threat or a bad thing. But at the end of the day, you have to sleep peacefully at night. And so not being sure is okay, but being sure could be even better, or at least understanding
Sure.
different options. So, but this is where, in order to have those conversations, this is where technology really can help and really play a part. What can we have to help Jen bridge those conversations with her manager and leader, and to get a better sense and better feeling about what are the different possibilities next? So,
Right.
Justin, if you will, can we bring Jesus on? Awesome. Hey, Jesus, how are you?
Hey guys, how are you? I'm doing good.
Awesome. So I don't know when you joined our program, but we're really trying to help people listening, whether they're in an HR role or whether they're a worker, just like you and I and Jen, understand, well, how do we start having those conversations? How do we visualize what might be next for us? And I promise them that actually AI technology can help facilitate some of these conversations. Do you want to prove me right or wrong?
I think I want to prove you right, and I'm gonna do that. Just share my screen here real quick.
Thank you.
So when we think about career pathing, to your point, JD, it's all about transparency. It's all about the journey, right? And sometimes the journey isn't as clear as, you know, going from home to the grocery store. Sometimes it's a little less clear, right? And sometimes you don't know the right path or the right steps to take to get there. And I think that's really where AI can really play a crucial role in helping shed light to something that has always been sort of an unknown in everyone's head from a worker perspective. Just want to confirm real quick, JD, can you see my screen here okay?
Yeah, it looks good. We're looking
Awesome.
what looks like for Julia and maybe a potential career path.
Yeah, awesome. So obviously we're gonna sort of impersonate Julia here real quick. She's an associate product manager, and you know, she's sort of getting her feet wet with the workforce. She's sort of trying to understand where her career might take her if she goes down the path of the product management. But what's not readily available for Julia is understanding what happens if, you know, maybe product isn't for me. What are my options? What are my opportunities? And based on who I am, not just, hey, you're a product manager, what if you come and be a retail service, right? Like, that's not necessarily a viable opportunity. But what are some other options within an organization that may fit Julia just based on who she is? How do we connect all of those dots together? And that's really where the power of AI comes into play. So again, we talk about the journey, the story of Julia, and her story is she's an associate product manager, but maybe she wants to be in marketing. Maybe she wants to be a business analyst, or you know, maybe she's thinking about making a complete career change, and maybe product isn't for her. Maybe she has a passion for sales, right? How do we actually promote these opportunities for Julia to give her the insight, the power, the knowledge to know where she can take her career? Some of that is really all AI driven, like you see here. So Julia is an associate product manager. We have a bunch of options for her, right? It's not just you can be a product manager or go somewhere else, right? It's what other options do we have here for you? Marketing manager, business analyst. There's also company sponsor paths. Are there specific paths that the company may want to consider or promote internally? Or maybe Julia is just, you know, a curious individual. She just wants to see what's available, see what other options are in the organization. Maybe she's thinking much larger ahead, and maybe she wants to know what will it take to be, you know, a manager, a people manager, or a director, whether it's in the product management department or just other departments. But this is really where AI comes in and just promotes that transparency, promotes that visibility. But it's not just about making it visible. We have to make it actionable too.
So Jesus, so, you know, some of the things you're showing us as I'm looking and following your screen, it looks like there's career paths set and explored with the best interest in Julia in mind. It looked like there was paths that were already predefined from a company perspective.
Correct.
And then there was ability to just, you know, for Julia, just explore, right? Not really have any bounds of understanding where it's going, but just explore. All of that is powered by artificial intelligence.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. All of it is powered by artificial intelligence, just based on what fits Julia the best, based on her profile, where could she be? And even if she's just exploring, maybe she finds something interesting. What does it take to get Julia from where she is today to where she wants to go in the future?
Now,
all of that is AI driven.
Now, if you're someone tuning in from an HR talent management team, if you will, and you're really you're all about employee experience, and you need to figure out how to help people evolve as a career. How are those career paths from a company perspective driven off of AI? What's behind that?
Yeah, very good question. I think the best answer I have is this is a very data-driven product, and it's driven by your own organization's data, right? It's going to be unique for your jobs. It's going to be unique for your requirements based on every requisition you have, but it's also going to be unique based on Julia. You may have 100 employees, you may have 500 employees. Whatever that number looks like, everyone is unique. Everyone's going to have a unique experience based on who they are, based on what they're bringing to the table, their skills, their background, their experience, their competencies. All of that is really taken into consideration to understand Julia's profile versus the organization's job profile. So it's a mix of employee data and a mix of your career architecture data to really understand how do we connect what was once unstructured, sometimes hard to understand, and sometimes not even known to the organization, into something that's structured, easy for Julia to find her way, easy for Julia to create these conversations with her manager to say, hey, this is where I see myself growing in the company.
Awesome. Now, we had touched on the program earlier, and we talked about part of this is having the conversation, and what you're showing here can easily start that conversation, which we think is it's not half the problem, but it's like G.I. Joe. It's half the battle, right? It's half the problem. But so if you know the paths, or you think you're interested in some specific paths, which you're showing us, now what happens around how do I learn? How do I know what skills I need to develop, and where do I get those skills? Where do I find a mentor from that might help me get to that next level? Where does technology play a role there?
Yeah, so very good question. I'll sort of take that into two approaches. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's not just about making this transparent, but it's also about making it actionable. Understanding what the role is all about, understanding the requirements, understanding where you can potentially go. But ultimately, when you do have that mindset and you know that you want to be a director of product management or director of product marketing, it's all about connecting gigs, mentorships, learning opportunities into the single stream, making a career path opportunity for you, making your own dashboard where now we know where you are as an employee, where you want to go, and what are your gaps? What are your gaps, and how can we actually help you close them? So you have your dashboard now. We can start recommending learning plans, curated learning opportunities based on where you see yourself, curated mentors based on where you see yourself. Again, maybe a mentor from a product department or a mentor that's done product management before. And ultimately connect that all to projects, connect that to gigs, real world opportunities, to really help get you even closer, get you that one step closer to that next role that you want.
Yeah, I think what you're showing us is not just about having that conversation. Conversation around career pathing is one aspect of it. But when you start, when you're being told, Jen and I joke all the time, like, oh, you're being told, own your own career path, own your career. Yeah, but where do I start?
Yeah.
And I think this doesn't just help you start on what a path could be. It helps start you in the direction of here is where you can learn to pick up those skills. Here are the people in your kind of direction that may be useful to you to help you out and help you better understand where careers go, right? The conversations alone are so important, but knowing who to have the conversations with or who might help you is key. And then you look at, okay, well, how do I take on new things, right? You hear all the time in the business world, take on another project, get exposure to something, but how do you do it? You're dependent upon a manager. And if the manager is great, awesome. You have a great relationship and you're getting further. If they're not the best manager in the world, maybe they're not giving you the opportunities you need. So a tool that has some of this automated, that has it visible to you as a worker, can go a long way at helping you feel like, man, I'm really moving my career along and I'm taking responsibility. And guess what? In 8, 9, 10 months, 18 months, I'm going to be able to be in a position to take on that other role. And what you didn't show, I mean, you showed, but you didn't overly highlight is part of this has fit score. Mm-hmm. How good of a fit am I to these roles? Because we have to be realistic. That's not the only score or that goes into it, but it certainly motivates me when I'm so close and I can take on these 2 other projects and I feel like I'm qualified for that role, and I'm going to get to my boss and I'm going to tell them, hey, I'm ready for that promotion. I'm ready for that pay increase because look, I'm ready. And I'm proven to be ready because I check all the boxes. I have the projects. I have the mentors. I want to do this. Help me. It's very powerful. Jesus, is there anything else you want to show us before we get you out of the program?
No, I think that was about it. I think you pretty much said it perfectly. It's not just about the conversations, but it's about where do you start? And I think AI really connects all of those pieces to try to get you a starting position.
Jesus, it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Well, that's our tech minute from Jesus, talking about all the AI technology that gets built into an employee experience that helps with your career path and mentoring and gigs and matching you to the kind of the right fit in career paths going forward. Jen, we have to start wrapping up, but I think we've got a couple of key questions we could start asking each other if you want. No?
Sure. So after Jesus just demonstrated all of that, one of the questions I have is, laying out your fit score for particular roles, I think is super beneficial. Being able to contact a mentor that is interested and in your field is also critical. But what about setting goals and making sure it's easy to say you want to do something? I do it all the time. But how do you hold yourself attainable or accountable for what you want to do and make sure you're tracking that progress over time? Is that something that technology can also help with?
I think you can be accountable to yourself, right? If Justin, if you go to Tom Tate's comment, he said, is your career path a crapshoot? Jen, I think this is what we're trying to avoid. Like,
sure.
Is it just a crapshoot, or are we holding ourselves accountable and we have a path ahead? I actually think this is where mentors do play a role. If you're having the conversation, being open about mentors, now you're starting to be accountable for yourself.
Right. When you talk about something with somebody else and you're sharing that alone, that conversation, sharing how you're feeling inside with somebody else already starts being accountable for your own feelings.
And I also think, from a manager perspective, that accountability is not just on yourself, but if you're having this conversation with managers, now managers can help you. As a manager myself, I'm going to hold, actually, I'll say John Ryle. I'll say John's name. I'll hold John accountable for where he wants to go. It's my job to get him there. He's an A player, but I can now hold him also accountable to that. Right.
And what are some of the ways that you facilitate that? I know you have weekly one-on-ones. So is that something that you bring up every week, every couple of weeks, every month? I think having like an ongoing dialogue, I know with me and my own manager, that's something that we stress, that any of these big conversations shouldn't be something that's just saved for an annual review, but making sure that it's very clear what you're enjoying that you're doing, what you may be struggling with, making sure that is part of an ongoing dialogue is really important.
Okay, you hit a trigger word for me, and only,
I'm always hitting.
No. Very few people know this. I am 40 some years old, so I've had a lot of annual reviews. I've never had an annual review I liked. I've never in 30 some years of working, I've never had an annual review I actually enjoyed and walked away from feeling great. So I always give the advice of the annual review should not be the moment where you expect something big to happen. It's not. It's not.
And I think you made that clear on the marketing team. That we should be having these conversations throughout the entire year.
You have to have them throughout the year. And you mentioned, like, I have one-on-ones with folks. I don't, for John, for example, I don't revisit every single one-on-one with the same thing. Every few one-on-ones, I talk about, hey, how are we making progress with you being able to do better project management? Tell me why the communication didn't look really smooth the other week when you were working with our development team for the website. And I would explore those things. And then we talk about how maybe he could have approached it differently, or maybe how he needed my help or someone else's help for an escalation point. And so I like to hold people accountable for where they want to go in their career while mentoring them on how to get there. And a lot of that's exposure, but it is being accountable.
And a lot of open-ended questions.
A lot of open-ended
questions. Where they
questions.
answer and fill in the blanks instead of you telling them your opinion.
And it's not a one-way thing. It's not, John doesn't share with me where he struggled and I go, get better. Well, okay, what can we do to get better, right? Maybe you want to try this approach too. Or if I think I see this, your tendency to do this, maybe can you try a different approach here? And then we talk about what that approach is. So we don't have these closed-ended, okay, just get better. Sometimes we do. Sometimes it's like, okay, you failed there. Okay, let's erase that and go. Sometimes that does happen.
Okay. So I know we have to wrap this up. I have a final question for you. I know when we opened, you talked about walking out of your former boss's office, after he asked you if this was the career path you wanted. So what happened after that? How did you go from that point to you're a VP of marketing at Phenom? So just if you can summarize.
Sure, I can summarize. Thanks. So we started today's session around crap-free career pathing. And I started with a story that I said, I walked into a COO's office early in my career, within like 6 years of my career. And I was upset because I got passed over. I thought I got passed over for a director of customer support position. And within 1 minute of being in his office, he said, "Is that what you want to do for the rest of your career?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." And he said, "Well, then why are you even in my office?" And so how did that end? It was probably a relief moment for me. I walked out still upset, still not happy, and still confused. I did. That wasn't comfortable. But what happened and transpired after that was some of the best things that could have ever happened in my career. There was finally, for me personally, this relief that I am not going to make that my life. I was good at it. But I think someone above me, in this case, it was Chris, I think he realized that my passion was in other areas. I didn't realize the difference between passion and what I'm good at. And I had been 5-6 years into my career. I still had not understood where my passion is. And I think that moment I started understanding someone else who is, lack of a better word, screwing me over right now, giving me crap for my career path. That actually person is the right person to help me and help me get to an area where I might feel more passionate at. So it wasn't long after that I was moved into a product management role. The beauty about that is I took all of the amazing skills I had learned on how to work with customers, how to help them on the human side of handling escalations and showing them that we're taking care of them. I was able to take my leadership and management capabilities that I had learned managing a team of people and use that to further the development of a SaaS-based platform, work with an entire team, in this case, the entire team based out of India. It was an awesome experience. As I went through my career path, a few years doing that, I now had gone from supporting a product to helping develop the product further to being asked to champion the product publicly. That got my start into marketing. And it wasn't just marketing, specifically it was product marketing. And from product marketing, I was asked to do some demand gen work, analyst relations work, public press and media work. And ultimately, that was my story. And then I ended up here at Phenom running marketing. But this goes back to our central concept. Your story is, in fact, your path forward in your career path. And if you don't feel like you have an amazing story, start creating one now. And my advice and Jen's advice is to start with your manager and start with your leader and start with the company you're at. Start exploring the opportunities you have there. You really have to find what you're passionate about. Your passion will drive a lot of the future. And I don't care what age you are when you find your passion. It doesn't matter. When you find your passion and you combine that with what you're good at doing, it really helps accelerate your career.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think something that some people struggle with is they're so passionate about one thing and they want to know whether they should take that passion and pursue another opportunity. Photography, they love to take photos. How can they make it into a marketable career? It's definitely a conversation that, you know, we could do an entire episode around, but I think that's also important to mention. There are definitely aspects that you could be passionate about that you can incorporate into a career versus do you take that passion and make a career out of that?
Awesome. Anyone who joined us today, we did talk about crap-free career pathing. We appreciate you listening in, joining us. Hopefully you heard from John and you connected with him. If you're on the HR profession side, and you're looking at technology, Jesus gave an awesome demo around really an employee experience and the technology and the AI technology that goes into helping facilitate these conversations. As we wrap up, Jen, I know there's a webinar we want to talk about, right? An upskilling webinar, because as we touched on today, to get to the next step, if you don't know what it is, start talking, start exploring. But at some point, it's going to come down to what skills do you need to get there? What do we have in store in the future?
Absolutely. So actually today at 2:00 Eastern time, we have a webinar that's going to talk all about the skills to pay the bills. So, you know, finding out how HR technology can really help leverage skills to drive employee development and retention. You don't want to miss it. So today, 2:00 Eastern Standard Time, tune in.
We want to give a shout out to a special person of our marketing team. He's been here 4 years, Devin Foster. Devin has championed TXL for us, Talent Experience Live for us, for over a year now. So Devin, if you're listening, and we hope you are, thank you so much for your contribution. You'll be missed here at Phenom, and we love you.